It's more sports.
Welcome into the show. What's going on, everybody? Glad you're with us again for another night of more sports. Got a big show. We're going to talk a little bit about the King Cotton Classic coming back to Pine Bluff. Sam Glover will join us in a bit. But first, let's talk a little Razorback football and get to know Coach Ryan Silverfield a little better. I saw a story earlier this week, really good story. Andrew Hutchinson, best of Arkansas Sports.com, joins us tonight. And you got to catch up with Mike Norvell. And first of all, hey, that's a good get. Way to go, Andrew. Tip of the cap to you. That's a good interview, and it turned out really well for you.
Yeah, it was really great. I mean, it's one of those things where you don't know if you don't ask. So I reached out to Florida State, and lo and behold, their SID, I don't know if you know this, Wes, is Derek Satterfield, who was at Arkansas as the SID when I first got started, like back in 2012, 2013, that time frame. So he remembered me and got me about 10 minutes with Coach Norvell, which I thought was really cool.
What did you learn about Ryan Silverfield after talking to Mike Norvell?
It was a lot of reinforcement of what we've kind of already heard from other people, that just kind of he's a grinder. I mean, he's a guy that has worked his way up. I thought it was really interesting. Everyone knows that he worked for Mike Norvell at Memphis, but that relationship actually started at Arizona State when Ryan Silverfield was an offensive analyst. He was just kind of, I guess, kind of in this weird time of his career where he had just worked as, I think, like a consultant, I believe was his title, at Toledo with Matt Campbell, another name we were familiar with, and didn't have a job, was kind of going around to different schools, and just happened to come by, Arizona State, when Todd Graham was there. And of course Mike Norvell was the offensive coordinator, and they really hit it off. It sounds like they really liked each other's philosophies and just kind of the way they go about things. And even though Silverfield did not finish out the year there, he actually went and was the assistant offensive line coach with the Detroit Lions. They had a midseason coaching change, and so he went back to the NFL ranks. When Norvell got hired at Memphis that offseason, he called up Silverfield and was like, "Hey man, I want you to coach my offensive line," and he was able to get him there. And as they say, the rest is history.
It's funny how these coaches, you start looking into their background, the different guys that they've worked with through the years. And once we've learned more about Silverfield, he's worked with a lot of good name coaches and picked their brains, I'm sure. And that's kind of molded him and who he is today.
Yeah, he's a really interesting guy just because he's got so much experience as a relatively young coach. I mean, what is he, 45 now? I think is his age. So, and yet he's got 25 years of experience because he got started so young, because didn't play in college, and he went to a small D3 school, coached there while in school, and just kind of worked his way up. He was a high school coach for a year. It's when he was 24 years old, I want to say. And so yeah, he's got this experience, and because of that, he's made all these connections. And it's just kind of crazy when you look into it. I mean, that's probably my new favorite hobby, is looking into coaches' past and kind of seeing where the connections are. It helps whenever trying to figure out who we might hire as a staff, but then also just the interesting domino effects. Man, I put it in the story, the fact that Ryan Silverfield ended up connecting with Mike Norvell just so happened because Mike Norvell, when he was at UCA as a player in GA, turned down one position, took another position at Tulsa with a guy named Gus Malzahn. You might know of him, and got connected with Todd Graham. Just kind of climbed the ladder with him, and lo and behold, the job that he turned down was at Delta State, whose head coach at the time was none other than Ron Roberts, the new defensive coordinator at Arkansas. It's crazy if you look back in the history of these guys, how it all kind of is interconnected.
Is that the connection you think with Ron Roberts? And while Silverfield knew him and kind of maybe had a inkling to bring him on as the DC?
Makes me wonder, for sure. I mean, it helps that Ron Roberts has been around a long time, and has coached at various places. So I'm sure there's been some, matchups there along the way. But when I found that connection, I was like, I wonder if Ron Roberts stayed in touch with Mike Norvell over the years. And then Mike Norvell's like, "Hey, my guy Ryan Silverfield's a good coach," or something. It makes you wonder. I'm hoping I get a chance to ask Silverfield about it sooner rather than later.
After talking with Norvell, who do you think has had the biggest impact on Silverfield's coaching? When you look at the coaching tree, there's a lot of different limbs with him in different places he's been. Is Norvell, do you think, the biggest impact on him?
I think he's had I think I even read a quote because, Memphis and Florida State actually played last year in 2024, and Memphis beat them. Of course, that was the year Florida State really struggled after they were snubbed from the college football playoff. And leading up to that game, I think he mentioned, there I wouldn't be where I am without Mike Norvell, and I think he's probably been the most, influential in terms of the position he's in today. I mean, he gave him his first FBS full-time job there at Memphis, and kind of set him up to eventually be promoted to head coach, and eventually get hired at Arkansas. But I do know that he's had some other influential coaches along the way. I talked to the coach whose name escapes me at the moment, that hired him at Jacksonville University back in 2005. He just so happened to be the same college coach of Dan Mullen, and another kind of crazy coincidence. And so yeah, he's had him. He was at that D3 school where he went to school for a while. They had a longtime coach, Marty. I don't know if it's pronounced Favre. It's like Brett Favre, but with a T on the end of it.
Hmm.
But I know he has referenced him as a kind of a person that's a mentor, I guess you should say. So he's had several of them along the way, even though they're not all necessarily as big name as Mike Norvell. But certainly, I know Mike Norvell is a guy responsible for essentially giving him his big break that led to him becoming the coach of the Razorbacks.
Did Norvell like this move for Silverfield and for Arkansas?
He was excited. I mean, that was the first thing I asked Mike Norvell, and he was very excited. Like, I could tell it was genuine over the phone that he was excited because Mike Norvell's got a lot of connections to Arkansas. He obviously played at UCA. His wife is from Fort Smith and still has a bunch of family here in Arkansas. And so he wants. I think he genuinely wants to see Arkansas do well, and he loves it. He thinks he's a really good fit for Arkansas, and that he's excited. And of course, we'll see how it all plays out. Maybe this all changes once we get to see some games. But Mike Norvell sure was really excited, and I think the fact that he agreed to do the interview with me tells you a lot. Period.
Yeah, they're kind of busy, You got
Exactly.
portal about to open up. That's taking up a lot of time, I'm sure, for coaches. And speaking of the portal, recruiting is such a huge part of this. Any of that come up with the interview? What kind of a recruiter is Silverfield?
Yeah, I asked him that exact question. It's kind of what makes him a good recruiter, because that's something I've heard come up from other various people that have been associated with Ryan Silverfield. Even some guys I talked to that were maybe critical of him and didn't think he was that great. They said, "Well, you can't argue that he's a good recruiter. He's going to get good talent." And I think it just stems from him being a really good people person, and that's why Norvell said he thinks that he wanted to get back into the coaching game because he does have all those extensive ties in the NFL, not just with the Detroit Lions, that partial year in 2015, but he worked for the Minnesota Vikings, I think across multiple head coaches for several years there. So he does have ties to the NFL, but he does like the aspect of being able to teach kids and help them grow as players. Whether they're you mentioned, whether you're the first string starter star player or, a guy that's redshirting and not going to see the field. He treats them all the same. And I think that really comes across in the recruiting process. Kind of there's just the personality. And we've seen it a little bit. We've seen all the clips of him, going crazy with the students in the student section at basketball games and things like that. I feel like that bodes well for him on the recruiting trail. That's one of the reasons he's able to get those talented players.
I like the staff that he's putting together, but I like how they're pieces, fingers in all different programs, and that could pay off when the portal opens up and they have these contacts with guys that are going to be jumping into the portal. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on this coaching staff that he's bringing in?
Well, I'll kind of tease something else that we're working on at Best of Arkansas Sports. We've done some research. A lot of people weren't necessarily super excited when they saw, he's bringing Tim Cramsey with him as his offensive coordinator. He's bringing his wide receivers coach. He's bringing his offensive line coach from Memphis. And people are like, well, we're supposed to be blown away by this staff. Why is he bringing guys from a group of 5 program? But we looked into it, and coaches that make that G5 to P4 jump while bringing their offensive coordinator and multiple offensive assistants, it's generally gone pretty well. in terms of, especially since they had success at Memphis offensively. That's done. It's gone well. I'll say that. I'll save the details for our story whenever it comes out, hopefully next week. But so I'm a little bit more excited or optimistic about that than I maybe originally was after diving into it. As far as the other guys, I mean, the fact that they do have some SEC experience in terms of, Ron Roberts, has been in the SEC, bringing over a couple of his assistants from Florida, including Deron Wilson returning to Fayetteville, which is kind of unique. Marion Hobby, I think, was at Tennessee, but he was a guy that was at Clemson for a while as a co-defensive coordinator as Dabo was really building up that program. So that's encouraging. So I think there's good experience, as you said, from various different programs. Maybe they'll be able to get some players from those teams via the portal to help them with the rebuild. But it's a good diverse staff. I think the number one takeaway, though, is the fact that it is a large staff. I think that's something that people maybe didn't realize, myself included. You could only have 10 on-field assistant coaches. Well, they lifted that restriction, the NCAA, I think not this summer, but the previous summer. You can have more than 10 on-field assistant coaches. I think only 10 can actually get out on the road and recruit. And to his credit, Silverfield, I think, had 14 assistant coaches at Memphis. And I don't know what the number is right now, but I mean, they've got like 4 defensive backs coaches. They've got 2 offensive line coaches. They've got an offensive coordinator and a quarterbacks coach. So it's a very large staff, and you'd like to think that will have a positive impact, maybe clean up, maybe the penalties, if you're more well coached and better disciplines. Now, we'll see if it has an actual tangible effect, but it is noticeable that they do have a very large staff.
Andrew, I appreciate your time and great job with the article. Be sure to go over to Best of Arkansas Sports and check out that article and many more. Get a good tease in there for us for next week, something to read over the Christmas break. Have a great Christmas, Andrew, and we will talk to you soon.
Appreciate it, Wes. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. Andrew Hutchinson, Best of Arkansas Sports, joining us on More Sports. All of our interviews brought to you by Gwatney Buick GMC. They got the 12 deals of Christmas going on. It's wrapping up. Not many more days left until Christmas, and these vehicles are handpicked by Jamie Cobb himself. Now, if you're looking for something new, they've got that for you too. Gwatney Buick GMC delivers with the 2026 GMC Sierra at 0%, Acadias at 1.9% financing, and Terrains at just $279 a month. And business owners, not much time left until the end of the year. If you want to get some tax savings, they got you taken care of there. Sierras, Yukons, and many more ready to provide you that deduction that you need on your taxes. The 12 deals of Christmas only at Gwatney Buick GMC, 5700 Landers Road in North Little Rock. You can give them a call at 945-4444. GwatneyBuickGMC.com is the website. GMC, we are professional grade. Now let's bring in our next interview. Sam Glover joins us with the King Cotton Classic. The King Cotton Holiday Classic is right around the corner, starting up December 27th. Hey, how are you doing, Sam?
Hey, I'm doing great. Just looking to put the landing gear out and bring this puppy in safely.
How does this year's field look?
Amazing. And I don't want to get too far into the adjectives, but this is one of the best fields that we have had. And I say it every year, but it continues to grow. And let me tell you something, Wes. The reason that it's growing is the number of second, third, and fourth tier, I'm going to air quote that, players that are entering the tournament. What does that look like? So you've got your all-star lineup. You've got Jason Crow Jr., right? This guy's the number 1 scorer in the country. They're comparing him to Kobe Bryant out in California right now. Okay? But then you have these young men who are getting on scholarship at Division II, Division III, Division I AA, mid-major. And so that's what increases the talent pool of the tournament exponentially. Because before you'll have the all-star guy and then a bunch of guys who will never play basketball again. Now you've got the all-star kid and 4 kids that are going to an NAIA school. That's pretty good basketball.
What's the best way to get tickets?
The very best way is to go to KingCottonClassic.com. Click the link. It'll take you right there.
How much?
Passes are $15 for one day,
Okay.
and we offer a good special. It's a tournament pass. It's $30 for three days. Now you're talking about wall-to-wall basketball for $30 for 3 days. For the enthusiast or the regular fan, it's just you can't be beat.
Now you got teams from all over the country. You mentioned California, but I've seen Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, Georgia. I mean, and of course Arkansas.
Yes, from the beginning, this is a national elite tournament. And so every year we're going to focus on bringing in that national field, but then we deal with regional. And my idea of regional is 500 miles. I draw a circle around Pine Bluff, 500 miles. Anything in there is regional game for me. And then your local teams being the very, very best I can get out of Arkansas, and specifically Central Arkansas. Somebody out of Central Arkansas has to be in the tournament every year, as far as I'm concerned. And then, our local host team being Pine Bluff. And this year we rolled in some girls, which is going to be really exciting because when Carolyn Bradley comes into town, I believe she looks like a cookie cutter of Rebecca Lobo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's 6'5", about 200 pounds, 200-something pounds. She is the real deal. She is the number 3 prospect in the class of 2027, according to ESPN. She's the real deal.
Wow, you got a lot of reasons to come. So it's all day, basically all night. What's the schedule look like?
10 a.m. Saturday until about 10 o'clock, 10:30 p.m. that night. 8 games. Every 90 minutes, another game. Every matchup, I'm not overselling it. Every matchup is really good because here's the thing: we don't put the teams in a hat and say, "Whoa, here it is. This is what you're doing." We don't do that. We don't seed it. We don't do anything. I personally go in with my group of analysts, and all of these people. I want to say all of these people are very, very qualified. I'll do a shameless plug with one of my guys. I love this guy so much, but Johnny Rice, former coach over at North Little Rock, I send him teams all the time and say, hey, look at these guys, see what you think. And what we do is we match up the best. We make the best matchups possible. And so you'll look up and you'll see this guard. One matchup I'm really looking forward to, Jason Crow Jr., right?
Mm-hmm.
He's the shooting guard, probably going to go top few picks in the draft. He's going to Missouri. He's a 5-star. He probably get the Naismith Player of the Year, right? We have Anthony Spratt Jr. He's the number 21 player in the country, and that matchup's going to be outstanding the very first night. And so it's things like that we do to make sure that we are not only accommodating the fan, but we are fueling the atmosphere.
We lost your picture, but we can still hear you, and it sounds like it's going to be a ton of fun. Samuel, thank you. I appreciate you for joining us tonight, and best of luck with the King Cotton Classic. And once again, there are your tickets, kingcottonclassic.com, or you can always go to their Facebook page. That was a fun night tonight. If you like this video, be sure to give it the thumbs up on YouTube. Go to YouTube, subscribe on YouTube so that you won't miss the next time. We're ready to talk a little sports. That's going to do it for tonight. Join us tomorrow for more sports.
All Arkansas, all sports. It's more sports.